Great. Well, welcome, Becca. Thank you for taking some time today to talk to me about your senior year. Um, so I want to start off getting to know you a little bit better. Um, how did you can you tell me about your major and how you came to choose it?
Yeah, so I'm a major in social work. And actually, prior to coming to PLU, I took a gap year that was focused on service learning and working with various nonprofits. And so I knew I was really interested in the nonprofit field and helping marginalized people and trying to find some way to advocate. And so social work felt like the best fit because of its roots in social justice and diversity. Um, and just empowering people.
Great. And then can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing now with this podcast? How did that come about? Where did that idea come from? Yeah, so kind of just take us from the beginning.
Yeah, so I have to think back. Was having a meeting with some of the other Wild Hope staff. And there are two other students that are vocational program interns like myself. We were talking about planning another project, which is coming out soon. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the meeting, I was just like, we should start a podcast because I think that there's a tendency to talk about vocation in really vague terms, just because there's a lack of like understanding what vocation is. And especially like outside of the PLU community or other similar liberal arts colleges, you say vocation and people think that you're talking about becoming a nun. And that's not what we mean by vocation. We mean purpose. We mean finding your calling, whatever that might mean for you. And so I wanted to create something that gave people that either go to PLU or used to go to PLU a chance to talk about the role that vocation plays in their life, what that actually looks like in the real world. How are they finding it in their current role, whether that's in their job or their volunteer work, their larger purpose, or maybe they're a parent and they're finding their vocation in that. And so it's been a real joy to get to hear from different alumni about the role that PLU played in leading them to where they are now, and the really cool work that people are doing because of that deeper understanding. It's not just, I need to work a job to make some money, although it does serve that purpose because we all need to survive. It's also, what are you doing to find meaning and contribute to the world around you?
So what kind of interviews have you done? Or do you have any that come to mind that were just really memorable or your favorites or anything?
Yeah, so far I have recorded 4 podcasts. Um, I think the one that was most interesting so far, well, it's actually hard to choose because one of them, I interviewed a current student and an alum who are interested in law. So the alum is a lawyer. And that conversation was super fun just because of all the similarities that these two students had. They both had studied away with PLU and talked about that experience. We ended up talking about policy and the different underpinnings that policy has in the U.S. and the importance of like deconstructing those. So, for instance, we talked about how our environmental policies are kind of stem from this view of the environment as a commodity instead of as something to steward and care for. So that's just one example of the kinds of conversations that we've had. Another podcast, I got to interview 2 people really passionate about education. One of them works for a foundation that seeks to address disparities in educational outcomes and tries to get more underrepresented people in higher education. And then the student that was paired with that alum is a current elementary education major. And so they both got to share a little bit about their experience with that and what led them to that passion.
Wow. And what you're doing this podcast, what kind of experience did you have with running a podcast or starting one before you came in?
Absolutely zero. I'm a big podcast fan. I probably listen to over 15 podcasts every week. And so I've listened a lot to the structure of podcasts, but I never thought about starting one until this year. And like I said, I have zero experience in it. So I've kind of just had to figure it out. Luckily, we're in the age of Zoom, and so it makes it really easy to bring people on that are in completely different locations and just hit record. And Zoom lets you take apart the different audio, but I taught myself how to use Audacity, which is a software, just by watching some videos. And I know that I'm a complete amateur, so I don't pretend that I am a great podcaster, but I would say that I get the job done. And the important part to me is highlighting the voices of the people that I'm interviewing. So as long as you can hear them clearly and it flows, we're okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. And when you're planning these out, is there some sort of strategy or team you're working with to kind of help facilitate that? What is the process like?
So it's me sitting at my computer, for lack of better words, kind of researching the people that I'm hosting by looking up different articles about them, if there are any, asking them preliminary questions, just getting some basic information about them, using that information to think about the kinds of questions I want to ask. Usually jot down a few different questions that ask them specifically about what they're doing and how vocation plays into that. The first question I always ask pertains to vocation. What does vocation mean to you? How would you define it? And that usually leads to other conversations and other important points. And then I also do, for my second segment of the show, I like to ask more fun questions. So for instance, if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you have dinner with? Or is there a book or a movie that you read or watched recently that really impacted you, and why? And so I try to focus the questions around vocation, around the similarities that the two guests have, because these people have never met each other before, except for on the first podcast, and as well just try to spark interesting conversation and let it go where it goes, and also try to keep a good time limit there.
Wow. So you're playing like director, producer, host. You have all these different roles. Is there anything in your PLU experience or education that you're pulling from to help do this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that being a Wild Hope Fellow last year definitely helped me think more deeply about vocation. I also have always loved writing, and I work for the Writing Center, so I get to do a lot of that, and that's definitely helped me become a better writer, and that plays a big role in podcasting as well. And I just think being a student at PLU has given me a lot of avenues for critical thinking and critical questioning, just in the different classes that I take. And so, yeah, I would say it's a big mixture of things.
I have two more questions left for you.
Okay.
What does vocation mean to you, and how do you define it?
Well, I always ask everyone else this question. So, yeah, no, vocation to me is it's really that definition of like the world's needs and your passion. And so I think finding that intersection is really important. And that intersection isn't just one thing. It could be a variety of different things. Just kind of like there's not people say like, oh, there's no one person that you can end up with. It's the same with vocation. Like there's no one like job that is your true vocation. It might end up being that way for some people, but I expect to hold a number of different positions throughout my life, and I hope that I experience purpose and meaning in each of them. But for me, it's really important that I am doing something that helps other people, and leaves the world a little bit better than I left it. And I don't anticipate changing the world, but I hope to at least make it a little bit better.
Great, thank you. And I lied, just one more question. So you're done with PLU at the end of the year. Is there something that you look back on that you might miss or even take with you because you found it here at PLU? If there's anything you've learned or created for yourself?
I think I'll just miss being a part of the community. And, it's been really hard this year for everybody, not really getting to experience the full community, I guess, because we're all online. So I guess if there's anything I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss community the way that it felt before the pandemic, because there's no getting that back. There's no, going back to the way things were. And so I almost feel like a lot of us won't really be saying goodbye to PLU community as we knew it. And so that's kind of sad. But I am grateful for the experiences that I had here.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for taking some time today to share a little bit about the work you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you for having me.